What you're about to discover is the product of months of dogged digging, an investigation rooted in confidential sources, candid interviews, and a careful deconstruction of the timeline. The facts that we've obtained are explosive, and they will forever shift the way that you view this family. But let's do you a fast favor first. Hit that like button so that the war for truth. And if you don't already, join Core Wealth and hit the notification bell so you never miss the truth we're about to unveil. To really get the scale of this betrayal at the heart of this book, we have to turn back the clock. Far back from the doleful visions of Las Vegas, far back from the failed dream of Coyote Pass, we have to go all the way back to Lehi, Utah. This is where it begins with the Brown family's economic creed, the infamous family pot. It was put simply in an early episode by Janelle. All their money was put in one pocket. From that bank account came it all: bills, groceries, cars, and maintenance for the 3 houses. There was no my money and your money. There was family money. It was new for its time, even revolutionary. Janelle worked a full-time wage. Meri had her paycheck. Christine managed the kids and the money. The 3 of them built one economic lifeline, a holy contract that symbolized trust, unity, and equality. We spoke with an elderly close friend of the Browns, let's refer to her as Esther, who was especially close to Meri in the early days. She remembered how the wives valued that system. If a car broke down, the pot fixed it. If a child needed braces, the pot bought them. Each wife, each child was equal. That equality was the basis of their family, and it worked because there was total transparency and trust. For years, the system brought them through economic hard times, loss of work, and the Hercules task of raising 12 children. The pot was their lifeboat, but every lifeboat breaks sometime. And when wife number 4 arrived, those cracks began to show. Robyn came into the family in 2010 with 3 kids from a prior marriage, and with them a mountain of debt. She didn't deny it. I have quite a bit of debt from my first marriage. This was the Browns' initial serious challenge of the family pot. To their credit, and in keeping with what one would expect of them as a faithful family, the other wives accepted her burden. Robyn's debt became family debt. On paper, it made sense. In practice, there were already some quiet adjustments in the background. There were discernible differences, observers said. The first 3 wives remained plain and straightforward, while Robyn seemed to receive exceptions: more spacious rental homes, more expensive dinner dates with Cody. What started small grew. Esther recalled one red flag moment. Robyn appeared out of the blue with a brand new, expensive computer for her daughter, Aurora. Meri asked where it came from. Robyn replied that Cody had okayed it. Just Cody and Robyn, and not the other wives' approval. The rules were being broken for the first time. Decisions were being made outside the family council. And with money decisions came power. Then Las Vegas, 2011. The earthquake, if the dream was the dream of Lehi. 4 new homes, 4 new mortgages, and a huge financial burden. This was when solidarity was most needed. Janelle pushed deeper into real estate. Meri returned to school, then immersed herself in her LuLaRoe career. Christine picked up additional work at home, all while raising kids. Each wife pulled her weight to keep the dream alive. And then, My Sisterwife's Closet. Marketed as a family business, it was supposed to be the ultimate unifier. But in reality, it was Robyn's brainchild. She was the designer, the creative director, the CEO in all but name. And the business demanded money. Startup costs, inventory, advertising, all siphoned directly from the family pot. That meant Janelle's commission checks, Meri's LuLaRoe earnings, Christine's side hustle cash, all of it funneled into Robyn's venture. Behind the scenes, cracks deepened. A former production source, whom we'll call James, told us the wives, especially Janelle, repeatedly asked for profit and loss statements. But those requests never got answers. Whenever the topic came up, Robyn grew emotional, accusing them of not trusting her. Cody would get defensive, claiming they were attacking his wife. The subject became untouchable. On paper, it was family money. But in practice, once it entered Robyn's business, it became her domain. And the bottom line? The business faltered. It never succeeded. But while profits didn't materialize, something else did happen. Robyn gained unprecedented control over the family's finances. She was now the guardian of big dollars, authorized to spend and distribute money. And from what our investigation uncovered, this might have been the very vehicle through which Robyn began to divert funds into her own home, separate from the others. But the most turbulent weather was still ahead. If Vegas had been an earthquake financially, then Flagstaff and the battle for Coyote Pass would be a full fiscal war. If Vegas shocked the Browns financially, Flagstaff was a complete financial apocalypse. The move, driven by Cody and Robyn, at least in part to keep Dayton close for college, was catastrophic to the family budget. 4 inexpensive houses in a stable market were abandoned for piecemeal, high-priced rentals and an enormous multi-acre estate that was immediately a money pit. The family fund began hemorrhaging money unrelentingly. On television, Cody bemoaned ceaselessly being rental poor. Off television, things were worse. Janelle scaled down to an RV just to cut costs. Meri rented a big house she barely could afford. Christine lived in growing squalor, with herself and worrying to death about money. And Robyn, comfortably ensconced with Cody in a $1 million fantasy home, with a 5-car garage and wooded private backyard. The optics were simple. The wife who had come into the family with nothing now lived in excess, and the women who had sacrificed everything were left behind. For Christine, this was her moment of reckoning. In 2021, she made the decision to leave Cody and return to Utah. But departing a plural marriage wasn't so simple as bagpacking. The finances were too complicated, too interwoven. The biggest area of conflict? Coyote Pass. Christine had invested all of her life savings in the property. The funds from the sale of her Las Vegas home went directly into the family coffers to help finance it. She felt she was entitled to a fair share. Cody and Robyn. They did not see it that way, sources say, and this is where things got dramatic. Desperate not to be cut out of the family she had spent decades building, Christine sought out legal advisors. One source close to the case, a member of the legal community we're calling counsel, spoke with us incendiary details you won't find anywhere else. It began quietly, as a negotiation. Christine's attorneys weren't suing at first. They only wanted a truthful accounting of the family assets. They requested years of financial records from the family master account, the mythical family pot. They wanted to trace the money trail from the Vegas sales to the Flagstaff purchases. Normal procedure, simple, but Cody and Robyn's immediate response, total stonewalling. Why all the secrecy? If the finances were indeed open books and shared, what was there to hide? Christine's attorneys persisted, insisting that without full financial disclosure, there could be no fair settlement. Weeks of tit-for-tat finally yielded a motion to compel, a court order effectively forcing Cody and Robyn to turn over the records or appear before a judge. They reluctantly acquiesced. A file box appeared in Christine's attorney's office, and hidden inside that box was a dynamite bomb. At first, counsel explained, the group only were seeking large property transactions. But then a sharp-eyed paralegal saw something different. A name, Alice Sullivan, and next to it, a $750 monthly payment. Who in the world was Alice Sullivan, and why was she receiving family money? A cross-check revealed the answer. Alice was Robyn's mom. Then another name, Terrell Sullivan, Robyn's sister. She was also being compensated, rarely, but in significantly larger checks. Suddenly, this wasn't just about Coyote Pass anymore. This was something nefarious, potential embezzlement. The ledgers wove a spooky narrative. From 2016 to 2021, from the Vegas years to the insane Flagstaff relocation, money slipped quietly out of the family account into Robyn's biological family. Robyn's mother, Alice, received $750 a month for 5 years straight. Sometimes the memo line said family support, sometimes helping hand, and sometimes loan repayment. Do the math, $9,000 a year, $45,000 over 5 years. And where did that money come from? From Janelle's real estate commissions, from Meri's LuLaRoe income, from Christine's house sale, from funds meant for mortgages, kids' needs, emergencies, and household stability. Robyn's sister, Terrell, also received big checks. At least 8 transactions in 5 years, from $1,500 to a whopping $10,000 in the spring of 2019, dead in the middle of the family's Flagstaff financial collapse. In all, over $35,000 flowed her way. The bottom line? More than $80,000 drained from the Browns' joint account into Robyn's family members' pockets. The report astonished Christine's lawyers, but what astonished them even more was the timing. Match the dates of these payments against what viewers had been witnessing on TV, and the picture is dismal. While money was being paid out to Robyn's mother and sister, other wives and children were at their wits' end. And perhaps no story illustrates this betrayal more clearly than the suffering of Christine's daughter, Isabelle. We had seen Isabelle battle scoliosis for years. We saw her endure braces, pain, and endless rounds of doctor visits. By 2020, it had advanced to where she had to have surgery. The specialized treatment required a trip to New Jersey, weeks of recovery, and a wallet-emptying price tag. Insurance would not cover it all. Christine cried and admitted on the show, "I need to be the one who pays for her surgery. We must have a down payment. It's a lot of money." She worked day and night selling LuLaRoe, saving dollars in whatever way she could, praying to ease her daughter's troubles. And meanwhile, Christine had sought out the family pot for help. She asked for just $2,000 for pre-op travel costs. Counsel corroborated her poignant testimony. Christine was denied. She was told the pot was empty. Flagstaff relocation and pandemic had dried up funds. But the truth? As Christine was being told there was no money, tens of thousands of dollars were quietly slipping into Robyn's family coffers. Christine's appeal for as little as $2,000 to cover her daughter's pre-op was denied. Again rejected, heartbroken, and with no help, she was forced to borrow money from a family member in order to get Isabelle the procedure desperately needed. Stop and compare the timelines. In the very same months that Christine was told the family account was too broke to help, more than $7,000 was already lining Robyn's mother and sister's pockets. Think about it. No cash for a child's life-changing surgery, but plenty of cash for Robyn's relatives. No cash for a suffering daughter, but frequent checks written to Robyn's relatives. That is the betrayal that is deeper than any dollar figure. One wife begged for help to get her child out, while another quietly mailed money to her own relatives. And Christine wasn't the only one who had a price tag. Janelle endured bitter winters in an RV on Coyote Pass, sacrificing luxury in return for keeping the family afloat, while month after month, $700 and $150 checks kept being signed to Alice Sullivan. Meri sat in solitude in a large house, her only contribution to the family finances being a business which she had set up independently, money that also ended up in the bank accounts of outsiders who had never spent 1 hour working for the Browns. This was not sloppy bookkeeping. It was not innocent mismanagement. From our documents, it was a deliberate, multi-year plan of fiscal dishonesty, masterminded by Robyn and facilitated or ignored by Cody Brown. A strategy that placed Robyn's family of origin above the wives and children whom Cody had promised to care for. The facts were undeniable on paper, but the actual battle was only just beginning. For when confronted with this damning evidence, Robyn's lawyers launched a defense so outrageous that it added yet another bombshell twist to this saga. And that's where we left off. Welcome back to Core Wealth. Before the break, we revealed the bombshell hidden in the Browns' bank statements. Over $80,000 transferred into Robyn's mom and sister. We showed how Christine got shortchanged $2,000 for her daughter's surgery, while the money silently drained away from the family till. Now we come to the consequences. The defense's ridiculous explanation, Christine's counterattack, and the judgment that shook the very foundations of the Brown home. The moment they were presented with the facts, Cody and Robyn's attorneys could do nothing but respond. Their defense, orchestrated by our mole counsel, was bold in its simplicity. The $80,000, they argued, was not embezzlement, not favoritism, payment on long-standing family loans. Their story went like this. Years ago, prior to Robyn's hiring at the Browns, her family had loaned her money. Her mother and sister had allegedly helped hide her divorce, provided for her 3 children, and kept her afloat on their account. In this retelling of the tale, Robyn wasn't tapping into the family till for selfish motives. She was merely paying off debts to individuals who had once been her burden. But when this repayment of a loan defense first arose, counsel described the reaction in one word: insulting. Why? Because it suggested that by marrying Robyn, the Browns had effectively committed to taking on her debts as well, and that the hard-earned money of the wives could be used to pay for things no one had ever agreed to. The defense tried to explain Robyn's tapping of family money as altruistic, simply her doing something that was the right thing. It sounded plausible on first blush. But even the most wonderful story begins to unravel when there is no proof. Christine's lawyers responded quickly with an overwhelmingly simple demand: bring the documents. Where were the loan agreements? Where were the promissory notes, repayment schedules, or even plain written terms? There was nothing. Where were the bank statements validating Alice or Terrell lending Robyn thousands of dollars in the first place? Crickets. Where were the texts, the emails, the receipts, which should be found in any large money transaction nowadays? Nowhere. The entire defense rested on an $80,000 handshake loan with zero documentation. Christine's attorneys argued that without evidence, such payments weren't loan repayments at all. They were transfers of cash without authorization. And when one woman transfers tens of thousands of dollars secretly out of a joint account to her relatives, it doesn't look like repayment. It looks like something else entirely: unjust enrichment. That's a term with tremendous legal importance. That is, one has been enriched at another person's expense in an unfair manner. And Christine's attorneys said that's exactly what happened here. To drive the point home, they used a comparison to the Browns' own situation. When Janelle had gone into bankruptcy during the early days of her marriage, it was a family issue, talked about openly, worked out openly. When Meri needed a down payment on her bed and breakfast, it was fought over a number of episodes for the whole world to see. In the Brown family, major money problems had always been a group affair. But this $80,000 pipeline to Robyn's family, not to be told, hidden, never to be disclosed to the wives whose money was being drawn upon, or to cameras that taped every other financial struggle. Christine's attorneys called it what it was: a retroactive excuse, a desperate attempt to justify years of deception after it was finally outed. And when subjected to real examination, the defense collapsed. But the revelations didn't stop there. When the defense unraveled, insiders began connecting the dots further. The bank records revealed the what. The story of the defaulted loan exposed the how. But the most disgusting question still had yet to be asked: why? And for that, we looked once more at those who had witnessed the Browns' inner dynamics firsthand. James, one of the production sources from the Vegas and Flagstaff eras, chimed in. Cody and Robyn had erected a firewall around her spending, he said. Unspoken rule, cameras could film Cody yelling about being broke, Janelle fretting over money, Christine fretting over the bill pile, but Robyn's spending, that was off limits. Christine's request was simple, just $2,000 for the life-sustaining medical treatment her daughter required. But the answer she got was devastating. No. The family cash pool, she told her, couldn't manage it. Devastated, without someone else to make the request to, Christine was compelled to take a loan from a relative. But now, let's go back. Let's place the bank accounts next to that very time. Because 6 months earlier than the period during which Christine had been denied cash for Isabelle's procedure, over $7,000 had already gone directly into Robyn's mother and sister. Stop and consider that. No money to save a child from life-altering pain, but enough to wire to Robyn's mother. Nothing for a suffering daughter, but thousands to Robyn's sister. That is not just poor management, that's treachery. When one wife begged for help to protect her child, another kept it to herself to spend down the family funds on her own family. And Christine was not the sole victim. Picture Janelle, sacrificing comfort to live in an RV on the barren Coyote Passland. She spent harsh winters outdoors, economizing to make sure the family had a future. And Alice Sullivan was still getting $750 checks written from the same account Janelle was working herself to the bone to preserve. Or think of Meri, sitting alone in her large but empty house, her business earnings not going into her own future, but funneled to pay strangers who had no hand in building the family to whom she dedicated her life. This was not careless accounting. This was not a careless error. In our reckoning, this was an intentional, multi-year scam, money siphoning orchestrated by Robyn and facilitated, either by willful ignoring or active complicity, by Cody Brown himself. Between them, they valued Robyn's family of origin above the wives and children whom Cody had vowed to protect. The evidence was there. The facts were undeniable, but the battle was only beginning. Because once confronted with these damning documents, Robyn's defense attorneys put forward an alibi so outlandish, so offensive, it stunned even seasoned legal commentators. And that's where we left you, just before the break. Welcome back to Core Wealth. In our previous recess, we uncovered the Browns' bank account scandal. More than $80,000 bleeding to Robyn's sister and mother in 5 years. We uncovered the ghastly contradiction. Christine was denied a mere $2,000 for her daughter's surgery, while thousands seeped quietly into Robyn's relatives' coffers. But this is where the story takes its most sensational turn. What happened when that secrecy started to unravel when challenged? What defense did even Robyn and Cody come up with? And how did Christine's team demolish it so thoroughly that the judge's decision shook the very foundations of the Brown clan? The answer lies in what can only be described as one of the most blatant courtroom defenses ever presented. With the truth exposed, everything we've witnessed over the past few years takes on a whole new meaning. Janelle's struggle in the RV wasn't just about finding a place to live, it was her silent protest. As the sharpest financial mind in the family, she knew the math didn't add up. Money was disappearing into thin air nobody would ever tell her about. And moving into that trailer was her way of saying, enough. I won't continue to feed a system that's draining us dry, eh? Christine's leaving wasn't about love or sexuality. She was about betrayal. She'd watched her kids struggle when they were told there was no money for them, only to discover later that money was going in other directions. To Christine, her kids weren't being treated as well as Robyn's. That stung more than any broken relationship. And Meri. She wasn't just emotionally alone, she was economically forsaken. She dripped the labor of her sweat into what she had perceived to be a shared pot, only to realize later that her sacrifices were being utilized to maintain the household of the same woman who had taken her place. Now return and read Cody and Robyn's story of abandonment, their constant story of betrayal by the other wives. Framed this way, it becomes a question. Was it heartbreak that happened to them? Or were they upset about being exposed? Because once their underground system was brought into the light, the empire they built on favoritism collapsed under the spotlight of scrutiny. The Brown family wasn't destroyed by plural marriage. It was destroyed by greed, by one wife, upheld by her husband, to choose her wants and her inheritance over the rights of all the rest. In doing so, they didn't just break a budget. They shattered a family, a faith, and the trust of millions who once believed in their vision. But this drama wasn't over with the clawback verdict. Far from it. It could be only the beginning. Recently, Reality Recap received a new tip, and this time it's about Janelle. After Christine's victory in court, Janelle reportedly opened her own investigation. She was the family's sole breadwinner for years, pouring hundreds of thousands into the communal pot. And now she suspects Christine's $82,400 clawback was only the tip of the iceberg. Her theory? The 5-year window Christine's case examined was one of the family's leanest periods. The real losses, Janelle believes, happened during the Vegas years, when money from her real estate career and Meri's business was flowing at its strongest. As reported, Janelle is now demanding a full 10-year forensic audit of the Browns' finances. And she's no longer fighting over a patch of land on Coyote Pass. She's fighting over an accurate accounting of what she estimates is an enormous fortune quietly creamed off on their watch by Cody and Robyn, which means that this conflict is far from over. It's just getting nastier. So the questions now become all the bigger. What will those bank records reveal if Janelle's audit continues? How far does this rabbit hole actually go? Was Christine's win just the first shot in a larger war for financial justice? And that brings us full circle. From the sacred promise of the family pot to the cold reality of numbers on a ledger, the evidence paints a damning picture. What began as a dream of unity became a private piggy bank for one wife and her household. And it was only the courage of insiders willing to break their silence that allowed this truth to finally surface. Now we're leaving the story up to you, the Sisterwives community. Do you think Robyn's lone tale, or do you side with the judge's ruling of unjust enrichment? Do you think this money was tied to my sisterwife's closet, or was it really a hidden escape fund? And then there are these new rumors circulating that Janelle is gearing up to go after the missing millions. We'd love your opinion, your theory, and your voice on the conversation. If you believe this truth needed to be shared, share this with another Sisterwives watcher who needs to hear it. And if you're not subscribed yet, do it, because the next investigation has already been set off. This is Core Wealth. Until next time.